Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my top 4 tips for how you can keep your kiddo's gut healthy. As somebody who struggled in the past with IBS and gut issues before, and as a mom, this is a really important topic to me, and I hope that this information helps keep you and your family happy and healthy for years to come. However, I do want to start this video with a really quick thing. I'm coming to you as a mom and yes, as a clinician. However, I actually don't work with children in my clinical practice. So if you're here scouring the internet right now looking for help with a specific complaint that your child has, like IBS or SIBO or GERD, I'm afraid I'm actually not the right person for that job. However, like I said, I'm a mom and I get it, and this is something that I know is on the top of a lot of parents' minds. So I thought that this was an important topic to bring to YouTube, and I hope that I'm able to at least point you in the right direction and give you some new tips and new ideas that you can implement while you're on that journey looking for somebody who can help you a bit further. And now, without further ado, let's talk about those 4 tips to help keep your kid's gut happy and healthy. But first, before we do, let's entertain the thought of a quick 30-second crash course on how the human gut works, just in case we have some newbies amongst us. So here I have drawn for you a moderately horrifying version of what the human GI system looks like. And as we all know, food and drink enters through the mouth. But then what happens on the journey after that? That's what I want to cover for you in the next 30 seconds or so. So food comes in through the mouth, goes down the long, skinny tube called the esophagus, and then winds up in the stomach, which is full of a whole ton of acid, which sounds like a really bad thing. We've been conditioned to think that acid in the stomach is a bad thing, and that's why we all have to take Prilosec and all these drugs to suppress our acid. But actually, stomach acid is a wonderful, wonderful, marvelous thing because it helps digest our food, especially things like protein and iron and B vitamins. But these enzymes and the acid that's in the stomach also is going to sterilize what you're consuming. We don't realize it, thank God, but every bite of food and every drink we consume is covered with bacteria and viruses and yeast and God knows what. And we don't want those things to go all the way down into the rest of the ecosystem and shack up there. So it's a really good thing that we have this vat of battery acid to sterilize and kill anything that comes in on our food. So stomach acid is definitely your friend. Then after you go through the stomach, the food enters the small intestine, this longer, skinnier tube, and that's where the absorption is going to take place. Now, absorption just means that the nutrient, whatever it might be, whether it's a carbohydrate or a vitamin or a mineral, that thing is going to go from the inside of this hollow tube across the lining and into the rest of the body. So again, in the case of like a carbohydrate or some iodine or whatever it might be, that molecule is going to go across the gut barrier and get into the bloodstream and go to the rest of the body. Maybe the iodine is destined for the thyroid or the ovary. Maybe that carbohydrate is going to go to your muscle and your bicep, whatever it might be. That's what we're talking about when we say absorption. And that's the number one thing that the small intestine is focused on, is just lots and lots of absorption, and that's where you're getting your nutrition and your calories into your body. Then you're going to have some left over, right? There's going to be things that you can't digest, but others are very happy to digest for you. And that's where we wind up in the colon. So the colon, the last part of the major organs of the digestive system here, is going to be a place where you absorb a lot of water and electrolytes, but also this is the house for your microbiome. And this is a colony of mostly bacteria, but also fungi and viruses and archaea and parasites, all sorts of stuff, good and bad and everything in between. And these guys are living in an ecosystem and operating as a team to a point where they're kind of like a whole nother organ that we don't super appreciate. And what the big focus of this video is going to be is this gut microbiome, because what happens is they are going to respond to the food and the drink and the things that we consume, and then they are going to make good compounds or bad compounds for us, and then those compounds are going to interact with the rest of our body. So there are gases, for example, that can cause a lot of pain and distension and cramping, or there are molecules that are really good for the brain and the immune system. So it depends on what crop you have growing here And if you want those favorable metabolites, we're going to want to grow a nice, healthy, happy crop of good bacteria, good yeast, good viruses, whatever else in this gut microbiome. And that becomes the question, right? Well, how do we keep the microbiome healthy? How do we grow a nice, happy, healthy crop of bacteria that will keep us happy and healthy? And how do we be good shepherds to them so that they live for a long time and favor our longevity and our survival? That's the top 3, at least, of the things that I want to share with you right now. So, numero uno. Here, let's see. I feel like I'm gonna put a little 1 here for starters, but tip number 1 is the number 1 nutritional strategy that you can take if you want to keep your gut healthy, and that is to pump up the fiber. Out the wazoo. Fiber is your pal, particularly when it comes to the gut microbiome. So fiber is going to be something that you can't digest, you can't break down, you can't absorb, but the leftovers make it to the gut microbiome, and they are more than happy to do the work for you and metabolize and munch on those things that you can't process. This is going to be found in things like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, lentils, things of that nature. And unsurprisingly, a lot of us, at least here in the States, don't get enough of these things. Only 5% of the American public gets enough dietary fiber. And then we wonder why a lot of us have IBS and IBD and celiac disease and problems with our guts. It's because we're not feeding our microbiota the things that they want, and they are suffering, and then we are suffering as a consequence of that. Now, there's one study in particular for those research nerds among you that I'll put in the description down below if you want some proof. But there was one study that comes to mind, and it was on about 1,000 or so children in Latin America. And they did food diary entries and stool testing. And what they observed was that intake of crude fiber, so again, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, things like that, was associated with better microbiota health and diversity, and was inversely correlated, meaning like as fiber went up, this thing went down, with obesity and metabolic syndrome. So that's pretty freaking cool. On the flip side, kids that were getting less fiber and they were opting to eat more white starchy things like white bread and white pasta and white tortillas, those children had a higher rate of obesity and metabolic syndrome, and you guessed it, unhealthier, less diverse microbiotas in their colon. So pretty neat stuff, pretty good proof in the pudding kind of scenario there. Now, okay, so dietary fiber, your absolute number 1 goal. You could use nutrition tracking apps to get a sense of that. You could just count, you could Google like how much fiber is in an apple, and you could count it up kind of manually, but try to get a sense for how much fiber your kiddo is taking in if you want to keep their gut healthy. Now, let's assume that you're covering the bases with fiber to the best of your ability, but maybe you have a kid who's a bit fussier and they just hate all fruits and vegetables and it kills you, and you're trying to think of ways to get your fiber up without necessarily jumping right into the broccoli and the cabbage and the Brussels sprouts. Well, that's where prebiotics could come in really handy. Now, to be clear, this is not a substitute for dietary fiber. I still think that we need to make an effort to get dietary fiber from fruits and vegetables in our kids. However, the prebiotics can also help. And they can help bridge that gap. So again, if you do have a fussier kid, or if it is too time consuming for whatever reason to make the fruits and the veggies, or if it's cost prohibitive, maybe we could get a prebiotic on board and at least help your kid have a healthier gut in the meantime. There are a few of these that are really well suited for children, and some that I think would be hard to get in a kid. So for example, like Metamucil or psyllium husk, it's gonna turn into such a thick goop with a distinctive flavor to it. I have a hard time getting adults to take psyllium, let alone a child. So I probably wouldn't go straight to psyllium. But you could do something like PHGG, which is also called sun fiber. If you Google this, you can look this up. It's pretty easy to find on the internet. But PHGG is partially hydrolyzed guar gum. It dissolves in everything like a freaking dream. It doesn't have a taste to it. You could put it in hot or cold things. It's marvelous. And it does a really, really nice job of not only feeding these good bacteria in the colon, but also inhibiting the bad guys because of all the nice, happy stuff that the good guys are making. So PHGG, I'll share, like, as a mom myself, I've used this one before. I have snuck this one into oatmeal, grits, certainly smoothies and shakes and protein shakes and that sort of stuff. I have also started making what I call tummy hot chocolate for my daughter, which means I make regular hot chocolate, and then at the end, I just put a scoop of PHGG in. She's none the wiser. She has no idea. But you get this nice added fiber kick with the hot chocolate, so she's happy because she thinks she's getting a treat. I'm happy because she's getting some fiber in with that, and I put like collagen peptides in the mix as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. So PHGG is a great starter for kids. Another one that I really like that I have down here by my feet is inulin. Now, inulin, I will preface with this. If your kid struggles with gas and bloating and abdominal pain and like IBS or SIBO type symptoms, I might not start with this one. I'd probably start with PHGG. But if your kiddo doesn't have that stuff going on and you just want to focus on general kind of gut health stuff, inulin is fantastic. The trick is it's a little bit gassy, which is why I said I probably wouldn't start with like an IBS or SIBO type of presentation with a kid. But if you start slowly, your body gets used to it, your microbes get used to it, and it's not going to be any big thing. But what's nice about inulin is it comes as a powder. It's a single ingredient powder. I mean, this is just one of the ones that's available. I tend to get this one. But it tastes like powdered cotton candy. Market that to any child, and they're going to be delighted to take this stuff. And I kid you not. Try it yourself. You tell me. I swear up and down, and so does Amy, my podcast co-host. This stuff is like powdered cotton candy. It's so delicious. So I'll just put a spoon in and shovel a spoon. Now again, it tastes so good that they're going to want more of it, but start them off a little slowly and let them know, hey, this is going to feed the good bacteria in your tummy. So you might toot a little bit more than usual, like give them a heads up if you think that that's a concern, and let them know that they're going to be farting a bit more than typical, but it's because they're feeding their good microbes and the microbes are making some happy gases for you. But yeah, inulin, I would start a little kid at like 1/4 teaspoon per day and gradually ramp up. And you could probably get up to about a teaspoon with most little kids. For me, as an adult, I will do a heaping teaspoon, or actually it's probably more like a tablespoon, come to think of it. Anyway, I like get a kitchen spoon, I don't even measure it, and I just shovel it in and I'm good to go. With a kid, I'd be a little bit more conservative, but again, tastes great. You can just take it as is. You're going to have an easy time getting that into most children because it tastes nice and it does a great, great job feeding these good bacteria in the colon so that they are happy and healthy and they're making cool things for you, including but not limited to gas. Another one that you might consider also, two other ones, but I think that they're not maybe as high on my list as PHGG and inulin. Two others that you could consider are a prebiotic called XOS. So X like xylophone, OS. I'm not going to try to pronounce the actual name of it, but this is a prebiotic that's really good at feeding bifidobacteria. And again, it doesn't really have much of a taste to it. It's usually a 2-ingredient product. You can get it as a powder, and it's going to have that XOS prebiotic in it and usually cornstarch to kind of mix it and make it into a nice powder. But that also mixes really well in a lot of things, and it feeds bifidobacteria, which is one of the many types of good bacteria in the colon. So that's a nice one. And one more maybe to consider is something called acacia fiber. So it's, I'm not going to spell it verbally because I'm a bad verbal speller, but I'll just put it in the notes for you instead. But acacia fiber, likewise, it doesn't have much of a taste to it. It dissolves pretty well, so you could lean into that. But again, my top two favorites, especially for kids, are going to be PHGG and inulin. Now, all right, so we talked about feeding the bacteria with diet, with fruits and vegetables and whole grains. We talked about what to do if you feel like you need to bridge this gap a little bit and maybe get a prebiotic fiber supplement in the mix. But what if you have a kid that's had a lot of antibiotics? Like me, when I was a kid, I had crap loads of antibiotics. What's a kid like me to do then? If I've killed some of my good guys, you can't feed something that's dead. You can't leave out dinosaur food and bring back the dinosaurs. So what the heck do you do? Well, you can replace, to some extent or another, you can replace or introduce some new friends to the ecosystem. And that's where probiotics come into mix. There are so many different probiotics out there. I can't even begin to summarize this in this video, but just know they're all super cool. They all do super cool stuff. Any of the ones that are available might be helpful for your kiddo. I'm realizing this isn't helping, but what I would probably start with are probiotics that are found in food. So things like yogurt and kimchi and sauerkraut and kefir, kombucha. Did I say kombucha? Kombucha. But I would start with those as much as you can, and then just opt for a probiotic supplement if you have a kid like mine who doesn't really take to yogurt. There are a lot of different ones. Some of my favorites are the BioGaia products. So it's BioGaia. That one I can verbally spell for you off the top of my head. But BioGaia is nice because they have a liquid baby drop product. Has no flavor, and it's a well-studied strain. Really, really good. And then they also have a chewable that's mandarin orange and mint flavored, which sounds gross, but it's super good. And you can usually get that into kids too. But these bacteria in particular have been shown to help treat constipation, reduce methane, which is a molecule that can cause constipation. They can help inhibit H. pylori, which is a bad bacteria that lives in the stomach sometimes. And it actually can help decrease the incidence of upper respiratory infections like colds and flus, because so much of our immune system is peppered in throughout the gut, and our gut and our immune system is communicating on a day-to-day basis. So this particular probiotic is pretty well studied for that. Again, I'll write this down in kind of finer print here. Hold on. See, BioGaia. And I realized I didn't put inulin up here. There we go. So there's the spelling for inulin. All right, so top 3, feeding or introducing some microbes into the ecosystem. Those are going to be your top 3 go-tos. But for funsies, let's talk about one more thing, and these are my top 3 favorite herbs for children for tummy purposes. So, herbs. I wouldn't be much of an herbalist if I didn't at least make a little bit of conversation for the herbs. So, first off, my absolute top favorite herb for kids for tummy complaints, and it's well tolerated, very effective, and it works in adults, it works in kids, it works in old people. It's a fantastic, well-rounded herb. Humble chamomile. And you'll notice that I have a big old sack of the stuff right here. I'm not showing you the crap in the tea bags because the stuff in the tea bags is crap. Don't get it. The stuff you get at the grocery store is garbage. It barely has any smell to it. It barely has any flavor. It barely has any medicinal quality to it. Don't even bother. Go online, go to somewhere like, this is from Mountain Rose Herbs, but there are other good reputable sellers like Star West Botanicals and Frontier Co-op, both of which sometimes sell their products on Amazon. You can get a 1-pound bag of chamomile for like 20 bucks, maybe 25, and you can have an actual fragrant, beautiful, medicinal cup of tea as opposed to the crap that you would normally get at your local Kroger. No hard feelings to Kroger fans. But chamomile as a tea, you take a good solid pinch, maybe like a tablespoon or 2, put it in a tea strainer, cover it up. After you pour water on, cover it, and leave it to steep for like 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes, strain it, and you've got a really nice, beautiful smelling cup of tea that is fantastic for tummies. Chamomile is anti-inflammatory for the GI system. It also helps regulate motility, so the flow of contents from mouth to anus in a rhythmical, nice fashion. And that in and of itself is really, really wonderful for symptoms like bloating and indigestion and IBS type of stuff. Chamomile is top-notch herbal medicine for this. And again, it tastes great, it's easy to get in kids, and it's just a really lovely experience to drink it, and it's very relaxing. Now, under chamomile, my number 2 spot for kids is going to be ginger. The only caveat to that is that if you have a wuss of a kid like mine who doesn't do anything even remotely spicy or peppery, ginger might not be an appealing taste for them. So this is going to be like, if your kid is okay with this flavor profile, cool, you can try it. I wouldn't even bother with my kid because I know better. But ginger, again, it works in adults, it works in kids, it's well tolerated, and it works so stupendously well. Ginger is an antispasmodic, which means if the muscles in the gut are all clenched and hanging on for dear life and cramping, it'll help release that spasm and release that cramp. So it's really, really great for acute tummy issues. It's also anti-inflammatory, and like chamomile, ginger also regulates motility, which is the flow of the stuff from mouth to anus. And again, really great for things like bloating and indigestion and IBS, SIBO-y type symptoms. So ginger is rock star. Again, you could make it as a tea. Just peel it, chop some up, pour boiling water over it, leave it to steep for about 5 or 10 minutes, I would say, and then you will have a nice peppery drink. You could also get ginger as a glycerite, which just means that it's extracted with glycerin and water. Again, it's going to taste gingery and peppery, but that's going to be a bit more concentrated and potentially easier to get into kiddos. Ginger is just top notch for this application. The other one I wanted to share briefly is humble catnip. Not just for the cats anymore, mind you, but catnip is a wonderful plant, again, especially for tummy aches and sour tummies in kids. It doesn't taste funky or bad. It has that catnip smell to it, but you could get this as a tincture or a glycerite, or you could make it as a tea. And catnip is another thing that is so underappreciated in like the functional space and the internet space, but it's really well known amongst herbalists for being a great remedy for tummy aches and tummy complaints in kiddos. So get yourself a glass of catnip tea. You'll be surprised how delightful it is. Maybe it can't rival chamomile, which smells like you're just drinking a field of flowers, but it's not a half bad cup of tea either. Also, special bonus add-on number 5. I can't believe I forgot this. This should be a given, but I felt like I should make mention of it anyway, and that is, when possible, say no to antibiotics or try to avoid them when you can. Now, here's the couple of caveats. I'm not a prescriber, so I can't give you advice on when to use prescription medications. That's not my scope of practice. Also, I'm a stranger on the internet and I don't know what's going on with you, so I can't advise you in this regard. However, what I will say, again, as a mom and as somebody who's had a lot of antibiotics myself in my lifetime, a lot of the times antibiotics are overprescribed. So you need to just be aware of that and have your wits about you when you go to the pediatrician or your PCP. I cannot tell you how many times primary care physicians or endocrine people or whoever have prescribed teenagers years and years worth of doxycycline, which is an antibiotic for acne, and then whammo, that kid gets C. diff. I have worked with several kids where that's that exact story, and they're in their teenage years and they have C. diff because they were on freaking doxycycline for acne for multiple years. Similarly, I was an ear infection kid, and I'll tell you now as an adult, I realize all of the antibiotics I had as a child were probably unnecessary because the vast majority of ear infections are actually viral in nature, not bacterial. So I can't even begin to quantify how many antibiotics I had for a supposed bacterial infection, and then whoopsie daisy, JK LOL, I didn't need them after all. Similar thing with sinus infections. Oftentimes sinus infections don't require antibiotics, but they're prescribed like candy anyway for that purpose. And I know the last time I went to urgent care with a cough, I went in and I said, hey, look, I want your medical opinion. I'm not going to be a pain in your butt, but I just want to let you know that I really don't want antibiotics. Like, I'm not here to seek pills. I'm just here for your medical advice. If you think I need it, I'll take it. But like, I just want to let you know that I'm not really seeking this. She did the most half-assed exam I've ever had in my life, listened to my lungs in 2 places, and wrote me a script for doxycycline and was on her way. And I thought, okay, I guess I really did have pneumonia and I really needed this. Took one of the doses of doxy. Then I proceeded to look at the handouts that she had sent me home with. And the very first one said, you have viral bronchitis. The first line of this handout from the urgent care said, because this is a viral infection, you don't need to take antibiotics. Antibiotics won't do anything. Don't take them. And yet she prescribed them to me anyway. So this is by PSA. It's not to say antibiotics are intrinsically bad. It's not to say that there aren't very legitimate applications for the use of antibiotics, but keep your wits about you because, like I said, they are horrendously overprescribed. And this is something that's really, really, really going to affect this ecosystem in a negative way, particularly the more doses and the stronger stuff that you take over your lifetime. So if you could spare your child a round or 2 of antibiotics in their lifetime, I think that would be a win. Now, before I do my little shtick here at the end, remember, I don't work with kids. I work with adults. Age like 16 plus is who I work with. That being said, some of you watching this video, for the benefit of your kids, might have digestive complaints yourself. That's who I'm speaking to. I'm not talking about your kids right now. This is for you. If you have tummy complaints, whether it be IBS, SIBO, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, whatever it might be, that is my wheelhouse. That's what I actually work with. And I'm delighted to tell you that my group coaching program, FODMAP Freedom in 90 Days, is going to be enrolling again really soon. Like mid-January, coming up in like 3 weeks. So if you want more information about that, you want to learn more, if you think that you want to go with me on this healing journey and kick those symptoms to the curb in 2024, go ahead and check that out. I'm going to put the link down below. So we're not open for enrollment right now as of the filming of this video, but we've got the wait list open. And if you hop on the wait list, you'll be the first to know when we enroll and we open the doors again. You'll get first dibs on seats, which is really clutch because we actually had to close the enrollment last time. We capped out. And join the wait list now so that you're on that list and you know that you're going to get first dibs. And I will hopefully see you in some capacity, whether it's here on YouTube or in FODMAP Freedom or elsewhere in 2024 and beyond. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.